After 3 days of fall camp, yes, we have someone here who has eyes on the team, has boots on the ground. It is Cam Wilhorn joining us shortly after his drive back from Platteville, Wisconsin, here on Talking Badgers. Yes, it is Talking Badgers. I am your host, Kedrick Stumbris. Thank you for joining us, as always, and for joining our good folks over at badgernotes.com. While you're here on your platform of choice, be it follow, like, subscribe, do what the buttons are there, wishing for you to do on this program, because we are talking with someone who has had their eyes directly on the Wisconsin Badgers football team this week. It is Cam Wilhorn, my colleague at Wisconsin Badgers OnSI, joining us. Cam, it's good to see. I've been seeing your face a lot over the last couple of weeks. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, Kendrick. It's been actually really nice to see you as well. I assume it's going to be a regular thing going forward now that we're working together over on SI. But yeah, I was in attendance over in Platteville, made the trek out there. It wasn't quite a fun one, a little bit longer than a trip over to Camp Randall.
Yeah, it's long. I drive myself out down to like Big Ten Media Days in Rosemont. I'll go down to home games at Northwestern, and that's super easy for me. That's way easier for me than trying to get my butt all the way out to Platteville. So good for you for doing the Lord's work here. It's oh man, what a hike, but a hike that seems to be well worth it. It's an eventful few days down in Platteville. And Cam, just off the rip, offensive and defensive standouts that you've seen over the last few days. It feels like after yesterday, everybody was talking about Kedrick Kahuna. We, of course, got to hear some audio from Jordan Reed, the wide receivers coach. There's been talk about the quarterbacks. And today, reporters got to speak with Coach Cooper, the safeties coach. Cam, who are you buzzing about on either side of the ball after this afternoon?
Well, today was actually a little bit more defensive oriented. It was kind of a lot of what we saw towards the back end of spring when the offensive line was banged up. Just a lot of pressure from the defensive line. So there wasn't really many clean pockets for Billy Edwards to work with. That kind of hampered the first team offense. But, there were some good plays sprinkled in and out. A lot of good runs. Katie Akamelli, Darian Dupree, and Dylan Jones all had their fair share. Um, I can't talk enough about this guy, though. Eugene Hilton. I mean, the body control, the way he can just vacuum in the football is really absurd for a true freshman and a guy that hasn't even been around for a game. He had a nice one-handed catch on a throw that was a little bit wide by Billy Edwards, and then had another one leaping up in the air, twisting fully around and coming down with it, absorbing contact as he hit the ground in a double coverage situation pretty much. So if I'm going to point to one guy who was really impressive, at least today, it's Eugene Hilton.
It seems that has been in the water, in the conversation, just in the background a little bit ever since spring practice. He looked good in the spring from the amount of eyes I got on him in the few times I was able to make it down there. And talking with guys at Local Media Day on Monday too, you heard I think it was Billy Edwards, I think, who is saying there's just, or maybe it was Jeff Grimes, there's just something with him where he just does things I think it was Billy Edwards. He does things at a level that you just don't expect from an 18, 19-year-old. There's some natural, maybe genetic talent there. The son of T.Y. Hilton. Is he a guy who really has a chance here to break into what seems to be a pretty top-heavy wide receiver room?
Well, I mean, like you said, and like guys have said before me too. I mean, you just look at him and you can tell he has something that some other guys don't. And I believe, like you said, Billy Edwards alluded to that as well. But I just kind of think they're going to have a hard time leaving him off the field in a lot of these games, especially as he gets more experience late in the season. I just think he's going to be one of those guys where he makes enough good plays. He keeps making these standout plays, and you just got to find a way to get him the football. Because, I mean, Vinny Anthony, Kedrick Kahuna are those guys as well. Jaden Ballard has the opportunity to be those guys, but past that, it's really wide open. And if you're going to see a rotation, I think Eugene can very, very easily crack into that.
It does feel that way. Once you get past that top three, it feels like there's a lot up for grabs, especially given the fact that I know Luke Fickle talked about this a little bit on Monday. They really value Vinny Anthony as a kick returner. They're looking at these top three wide receivers as potential guys on punt return. With if they're really going to keep them all out there for special teams, they're going to need a blow from time to time. Somebody's going to crack in and get a snap or two here or there, or maybe they're going to start looking to these young guys for special teams reps. Was there a lot of special teams action you saw this afternoon on what day is it? On Thursday?
There's a good bit. As I was rolling in, there was some kicking going on. I didn't pay too close attention to how they were doing, but yeah, as we know, that's a wide open competition between Nathaniel Vakos and Gavin Lam. But they did a little bit of kick return as well. I mean, the same guys who were back there before. I'm assuming it's going to be Vinny Anthony. Katie Akameli works in a little bit as well, but I mean, it's Vinny Anthony's job to lose because he was just so darn good in that role last year. Not too much punt work though. But I believe during media day they did point to, I believe it was Tretch, Jaden Ballard, and Vinny Anthony as the three guys there, which isn't really too much of a surprise.
No, it is not. Cam, who on the other side of the ball on defense, maybe did you notice making a splashy play today?
Well, I mean, it's not a sexy name by any means, Kedrick, but Owen Arnett had a heck of a day. I mean, a guy who has served his time. He is a grizzled veteran on this team and has been a longtime special teamer who's kind of pushing to maybe be in that, defensive back rotation. He looks like he has the inside track for the backup nickel job. And if Nizer Forkrian doesn't play, which I thought was a sure thing until Mike Tressel kind of left the door open on media day, if you listen back to his interview there. I believe the date got set for his hearing to be September 29th. So whatever happens there is going to happen. But if for some reason Jameer Latimer has to kick out to the outside, I think Owen Arnett is going to have the inside track to maybe get up there. From everything that I heard today from Coach Cooper and the other safeties, it's that they want Austin Brown to stay in that safety role. So Owen Arnett could be a guy who kind of sneakily steps into a really important role this year. Today at practice, he had a couple of pass breakups, came flying in off the edge for a couple of sacks, and was just involved in the run game. I mean, everything you want out of a nickel corner, that's what he was giving the team today.
Cam, feel free to voice your disagreement with me if you think I'm out of line here, but it seems to me that, especially with Nizer Forkrian gone, this team certainly has some depth problems on the boundary at defensive back, but it doesn't really feel like they are at a loss for options in the slots or on the back end at safety. It really does feel like there's genuine depth in that group. And I think this group has been lacking some genuine depth at safety for, I mean, going back to maybe 2019 for quite a while, because they dipped into that transfer portal well for quite some time year over year.
Yeah, that safety group is definitely the deepest it's been in years. I mean, Matt Young had an interception today. I'm not quite sure I even brought that up in the article I wrote because there was a lot of good defensive plays on the backside, but it was more of a Hunter Simmons didn't see him kind of thing. Matt Young did say he just kind of threw the ball at me when we were talking to him after practice. But he's been a guy who just makes plays. You saw it at Bethel, and he's just a ball hog, man. And there's really no better way to put that. Matthew Trainer as well, the Richmond transfer. He looks pretty solid. He's one of those kind of downhill, is going to come at you hard. It's going to hit you hard type of guys. And that's even bringing up some of the true freshmen that we have as well with Luke Emmerich and Grant Dean. So that safety room not only is strong at the top with two veterans in Preston Zachman and Austin Brown, but does have some very good depth. And that's a nickel as well. I mean, Jameer Latimer has, exceeded every expectation I had for him coming into the season. I mean, he plays nasty, man. And that's exactly what you want out of a nickel. He also came off the edge for a couple of sacks, would-be sacks, and this one just untouched. I think he also did blow up. I'm forgetting the name of which running back, but I did believe he just drove straight through a running back to get to the quarterback as well. And he was a guy who really stood out during the spring. So yeah, a ton of depth at the nickel and the safety spots. And I as much as there may not be great depth at the cornerback spot on the boundary, especially, there's a lot of talent. because guys like Emilio Agard, Kyrus Gaines, like those guys have a ton of talent for as young as they are, and they're going to get their fair share. And that goes also with Deani Hill, who is much older than the other two. Um, if I'm going to segue into a little bit of cornerback talk, because this is honestly what stood out to me the most, that's what I had my eyes on throughout practice today, was who kind of fills that for Korean role. In 11 on 11s, it was primarily Deani Hill. And I really like the physicality he played with, especially in one-on-ones, few pass breakups, just, solid sticky coverage. But in 7 on 7s, it was mostly Emilio Agard. And that was really it with the ones. So from what I'm seeing, from what I saw, I think it's a two-horse race between Hill and Agard to really replace Fort Greene opposite Ricardo Hallman.
Well, let's transition a little bit into that Agard side. Based on what you've seen, maybe what you've heard, what young guys does it really seem like have a chance to play? Maybe not necessarily true freshmen, but guys, like Agard, who have put in a year, maybe two. We haven't seen really crack the tube too deep, but now they're kind of on the inside track to make a splash on this roster in a real Big Ten conference game this year.
I mean, Agard obviously is the clear answer. Coaches were raving about him during media day as well. And another guy who, again, everybody just will not stop talking about, and for a good reason, it's Nick Clayton. I mean, when we watched him during the spring, you could tell the talent was there. Everybody was excited about him. Very hot, fast riser late in the recruiting process. But he was a little thin. He was a little wiry. You kind of had the thought of like, hey, is he going to be able to hang around in the Big Ten at that frame? And fast forward 3-4 months, he's put on 30-ish pounds since he came into Madison. And I mean, you heard Daryl Peterson at Media Day call him, expecting Nick Clayton to be one of the greats. You just don't hear that about a true freshman. But I have a hard time managing because of how many.
You cut off a little bit there for a second, Cam, a little frozen, but you said hard time to not set high expectations for Nick Clayton because of all the positive things we've heard about him. Is that right? We got that right?
Yeah. Word for word.
Okay. Right. Perfect. Yeah, that quote from Daryl Peterson obviously stood out. I think it also helped that I think he was the very last one to speak to us. And so he had basically all the sickos who stayed through to the very end. He had everyone's ear at the tail end of Media Day on Monday inside a very hot practice facility. And yeah, the full quote is, I think he's on Nick Clayton. I think he's going to be one of the greats here. His work ethic, I think, is unmatched. So it reminds me of how I was under Nick Herbig when he was a freshman, kind of similar situation. Oh, all right. That is high praise. High praise from one of the vets to one of the very, very young guns. Would be great to see Nick Clayton come in here and make an immediate impact.
Yeah. Also, it's like throughout the fiscal tenure, Wisconsin's been getting a ton of just high level recruits, a ton of talented guys, and it really hasn't paid off yet. And it seems like some of the guys in this 25, 26, 24 class can really step up and be that group to really elevate this program. And I know that at this point, people aren't very happy. And with the schedule on tap for this year, I can't expect anything great. But it feels like the tides are kind of turning and that the talent is finally starting to show on the football field, which is something to get excited about.
Yeah. You certainly have to temper expectations given the schedule of it all, and you're installing a new offense. But there was always a thing in college football where you always just give a coach 4 years, right? And maybe some of that's out the window with the portal and with the era of movement, and some of that does change. But there is still a truth in that mantra where your talent still does have to age into a collegiate program, right? And we're now hitting that since they had, that very light transition class in 22, but now they had their first full class in 2023. They saw all the 23 season, all of 24, and and now it's hitting that 3-year window where some of this younger talent in the 23 class and the 24 class is going to start seeing the field, and the rubber is going to hit the road really hard over the next 2 seasons. And it should be, if you have been excited about the Luke Fickell tenure, despite the win and loss columns, it's been because of the level of talent. You trust the level of talent that's being accumulated, then you got to be excited about what's just around the corner for this team. Going to that offensive side of the ball, installing the running back competition. This has been very curious, given they kept everybody in that room. And I don't think that's what anybody really expected coming out of November last year after Thanksgiving. But how are those carries shaking out? You said, all the top three guys in that room, Dylan Jones, Darian Dupree, Katie Yakimelli, looked solid today. But based on what you saw, how are things shaking out over there?
I mean, Dylan Jones remains the front runner here, but all signs are pointing to a running back by committee type of thing, where all three guys are going to be involved, and especially Jones and Dupree. It feels like it is their backfield, with Katie Yakimelli kind of just serving as that veteran role, a guy who a little shifty. I mean, we saw it last year with his monster yards per carry. A guy who can give you good yardage in the right situations. But I really like the way that Dylan Jones and Darian Dupree kind of complement each other. Dylan Jones has that lightning fast processing speed, the ability to hit the hole hard, really, really strong early down back. Whereas Darian Dupree kind of gives you the versatility to maybe catch a few passes out of the backfield, make a few guys miss, and really punish you in multiple ways. And we heard some guys talking during media day. I believe Riley Mallman was one of them. I can't remember the other one, but they were just talking about how complementary their skill sets are of the three, and especially between Jones and Dupree. So I think it's going to be mostly a 1A, 1B between Jones and Dupree, but definitely factor in Katie Yakimelli in that.
That feels right to me based on all we know, and that's an embarrassment of riches, certainly. Cam, what if anything else did we miss? Were there any big takeaways from the media availability with safeties coach Jack Cooper, or any of the safeties you were able to speak with today after practice?
Not a ton. I mean, a fun few anecdotes from Matt Young. Talked to them for a while. He is also from Neenah, Wisconsin, same as Grant Dean, incoming freshman. Was talking about how they sort of knew each other. They overlapped 1 year at Neenah High School. Matt Young was saying how they weren't really friends the only year that they had together, because Grant Dean practiced like he was the best player on the field, and Matt Young didn't really like that. But they've obviously rekindled things and said that they're really close now. Kind of sees Dean as a bit of a younger brother figure on the team, but not a ton really to be gleaned from that, other than they're happy with the top end of the safety room and the depth of it as well. There's just a lot to like from that safety room. But also too, Kedrick, I think the biggest takeaway I had, and I mean, I'm sorry, I just got to get into this because it's been weighing on my mind.
Please do.
The Badgers tried a whole new look on the offensive line today. It was Joe Brunner out at left tackle, Davis Heinzen, who we all thought was kind of the penciled-in starting left tackle after he was acquired via the transfer portal, was filling in at left guard. And it was really interesting. Both are like similar frames, but that was not something I expected at all.
No, not this early. Because I know, and it's been mentioned on this show or earlier this week, I think there are plenty of folks, consider myself included in this list, who were skeptical of the Davis Heinzen as a starting left tackle for a Big Ten program. But I believe it was Jeff Grimes who said on Monday he was brought in here to have a real shot at that position. He's going to get a lot of opportunities to earn that position. Oh, we're on day 3.
Yeah, I mean, if they're already moving him to left guard, I don't know if they're just experimenting with things, but with the way that the offensive line struggled, it was primarily in the interior. I think it was an uncharacteristically poor day from Jake Renfro. Just chalk that up to that because he has been rock solid for however many years now. But it was really interesting to watch. Brunner, obviously, I'm assuming there's some learning pains. I've never played offensive line, if you couldn't tell, but I imagine moving from guard to tackle has a little bit of challenges with it. primarily in just the footwork and the speed. We saw on occasion Sebastian Cheeks, I believe it was, and I think one rep of Tyrese Fearbury just kind of ran around Brunner and got in the backfield. But I mean, there's not really as solid of depth that there is in the offensive line, and there's some good pieces, some good young pieces. I just don't know if there's a great answer at left tackle. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just kind of it's always just a terrible thing to lose your left tackle in spring ball. I mean, there's really no good parts about that.
No, it felt very clearly early on that once Kevin Haywood went down, it was just very obvious they didn't have a perfect answer. And maybe not even a satisfactory answer based on what we've seen thus far. Again, it's early. It's July 31st. We're it's exactly 4 weeks from today because they kick off on a Thursday. College football. But is it just a matter of they're going to have to play their best five? And even if the best five doesn't provide a very good answer at left tackle, it just is what it is? Or is there a chance that they just brute force Davis Hines into this position and hope for the best?
I gotta think you go with the best five. I mean, they're versatile enough to be able to do that. And I imagine if you give Joe Brunner, I would assume Joe Brunner is probably the most talented option you can put at left tackle.
Hmm.
Um, if you just give him a few more weeks, and I'm sure he's going to get better as time goes on because he's just that hard of a worker. But I think that's where you go is just, you put your best five out there and just hope you can piece it together because you can't really have a weak spot at the left tackle spot, especially when you have the gauntlet of a schedule that the Badgers have this season. Like that is going to get picked apart very, very quickly. So I think you just got to put your best five out there and hope that they can figure it out together and adapt. And there's a lot of experience along that offensive line. Very much so, even at the right guard spot, which I'll throw in. Kerry Kudenko handled, I believe, all of the number one's reps today. Seems like it's very much his job, especially after Kevin Haywood's injury. But yeah, it's just you got to put the best five out there and hope you can piece it together because you can't really send out somebody who isn't your best option there just to keep everybody in a position.
I know that Luke Fickell has mentioned this offseason that redshirt freshman Emerson Mandel is a player who's had a chance to crack the two deep. Where has he been in relation to this offensive line shuffling? Was he mostly out there with the twos? What about a Colin Cumberly? At this point, I think this is probably the biggest question mark on the offense, and could really has a chance of blowing up what I think overall is a side of the ball that I think mostly the coaches and player personnel are pretty optimistic about. But if they can't figure this out, it might be a real nightmare. So I'm kind of just throwing names out, just hoping you might be able to tell me what have you seen from any plethora of guys out there.
Yeah, Kedrick, when you're trying to make your identity running the ball and you have a weak O line, that typically doesn't go very well.
No.
But Emerson Mandel is a really, really intriguing guy just because he is massive, like just gigantic frame, really strong. I believe Riley Mullman called him a mauler during media days earlier this week.
Yeah.
But he's been mostly working at the guard positions at the
Hmm.
second team reps. I believe he's been playing a lot of left, playing some right as well. I'd be interested to see what he looks like playing out at tackle. I don't know how quick his feet are, but if you're looking just for a big guy with the length to kind of keep defensive ends at bay, I think he might be worth a try. But is he the answer? I don't know. He's at best a second string left tackle, but I mean maybe he comes out and surprises me, but I'd like to see it just to see it because you kind of have to with a guy with that frame, but I got to think that he just stays as a reserve guard who can play either side of the ball.
Yeah, those two freshmen, Mandel and Colin Cumberly, redshirt freshmen, they at least feel like guys who they have the length to just maybe be able to swing over there, 6'5", 6'6", not the most monstrous offensive lineman you've ever seen, but like it's probably passable. So I don't know, just throwing ideas at the wall. Cam, I appreciate you coming on relatively short notice here. Cam Wilhorn, my great colleague over at Wisconsin Badgers on SI. Cam, anywhere else the good people should find you, see more of you, read more of your excellent work?
Yeah, you can just follow my Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays. It is at Cam Wilhorn, as you see it on the screen. And like you said, you can find my work on Wisconsin Badgers on SI.
That is phenomenal. Thanks so much, Cam, for coming in. I really, really do appreciate it. We're going to be back again tomorrow to talk Badgers. Tomorrow is the first day off of the Wisconsin Badgers fall camp regimen. So we'll have to fill the time. We'll have to fill the time. There will be plenty more to talk about here on Talking Badgers. Until we talk to you all again very soon, hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button, the like button, whatever the platform of your choosing is asking you to push that button. For BadgerNotes.com, I am Kedrick Stumbris. Till we talk to you all again very soon on Wisconsin.